everyone, and welcome back to another physics lesson. Today we will be reviewing wave interference. But before we get to that, we have to ask the most important question of the video, which is, who's excited for physics? I know I am. I'm so glad to have you here with me today. Let's get into it. Here are the questions you should be able to answer by the end of the video. First one is, what is wave interference? The second one is, what types of wave interference are there? And the third one is, what is a principle of superposition? Before we start addressing those questions, I want to review some wave terms with you that we'll be using as we talk about wave interference. The first one is equilibrium. If there was no disturbance causing a wave to occur, then all the wave particles will be found at this position known as equilibrium. It is represented by this straight line over here. Let's say there was a disturbance. Then you would get a wave, and the wave would move or be displaced above and below equilibrium. The crest of a wave is a point on the wave that exhibits the maximum amount of positive or upward displacement from the rest position, or equilibrium. The trough of a wave is a point on the wave that exhibits the maximum amount of negative or downward displacement from the rest position. What about the value associated with how high or low a wave moves away from equilibrium? This is known as amplitude. In other words, it is the maximum amount of displacement of a particle on the wave from its rest position. In a sense, the amplitude is the distance from rest to crest, or you can say rest to trough. Keep in mind that though the examples we're using in this video are transverse waves, wave interference still happens with longitudinal waves as well. Now we're ready to learn about wave interference. So what is wave interference? Wave interference is the phenomenon that occurs when two waves meet while traveling along the same medium. If you take a look at this GIF, you can see that there are two waves passing by each other, the green wave moving to the right and the blue wave moving to the left. The red wave is a resultant wave, or the wave sum, which is the result of wave interference. Here's another GIF that shows the same thing. You see two individual waves that are interacting, one wave moving to the right and the one below it moving to the left. And at the very bottom, you see the resultant wave over here in the thick blue line. So let's talk about why this happens. To explore the different types of interference, I'm going to provide you with some examples. Let's say that before interference, there are two waves moving toward each other, the red moving to the right and the blue moving to the left. Both of these waves have positive displacements. During interference, or when the waves pass by each other, the resultant wave will be the wave in the green. As you can see, the result is a wave with a bigger amplitude than either individual blue or red wave. This is known as constructive interference. This happens when two interfering waves have a displacement in the same direction. As seen in the example, the result of constructive interference is a wave with a bigger amplitude than either wave. What about this example? Again, we have two waves moving toward each other. We have the red moving toward the right and the blue moving toward the left. But in this case, we have waves that have negative displacements. Well, we know that constructive interference happens when two interfering waves have displacement in the same direction. Since they both have a displacement in the negative direction, this is still constructive interference. Here's what it would look like during interference. The resultant wave is in the green. As you can see, the amplitude is more negative than the amplitudes of either of the individual waves. Here's a physics interactive on Physics Classroom, and let's see how constructive interference works on the simulation. So if I go ahead and click on construct right here, notice that now, if I was to stop this, now the waves match up in terms of where their crests are and where their troughs are. And the result of that is right here, wave 1 plus 2, which is the wave sum. You can see that the resultant trough is a lot lower than each individual trough, and the resultant crest is a lot higher than each individual crest. So this is consistent with our definition for constructive interference. What happens if one interfering wave has a positive displacement, like the one in the red, and the other, like the one in the blue, has a negative displacement? This is something known as destructive interference. The displacements of the two interfering waves are in opposite directions. The result of this is seen in the green, this green line. If the two waves have the same amplitude, the waves will destroy each other and in fact will cancel out. Is this destruction permanent? Will the waves cease to exist after this interaction? Turns out, after the interference, the waves still exist and continue traveling in the same respective directions they were traveling in before. So The red wave is moving to the right before interference, and after interference, it will still be moving to the right. It is not destroyed. Same with the blue. The blue is moving to the left before interference, and after interference, it's still moving to the left. What happens during interference is not a destruction of the wave, but a destruction or canceling of the effect of the wave on the particle. In other words, the upward displacement of the red wave, for instance, is balanced out by the downward displacement of the blue wave, resulting in no net displacement during interference. Destructive interference leads to only a momentary condition in which the medium's displacement, as you can see over here in the green, is less than the displacement of the largest amplitude wave. So now we've learned about destructive interference, let's see how it applies to this physics interactive over here. So let's go ahead and click on destruct and see how it impacts our waves. So if I was to stop the simulation, we can see that they are now going in opposite directions. Where there is a crest in wave 1, there is a trough in wave 2. Where there is a trough in wave 1, there is a crest in wave 2. And the result of that is a canceling out of wave 1 plus wave 2. The reason we see a canceling out of wave 1 plus wave 2 is because they specifically have the same amplitude. Over here, wave 1 has an amplitude of 0.35, and wave 2 in the blue also has an amplitude of 0.35. So if I was to look at this crest over here at wave 1, it is at an amplitude of 0.35, which matches with this trough of wave 2 at negative 0.35. These two amplitudes will then balance out and cancel out, leading to a resultant displacement of 0 and our wave sum. Similarly, over here we have a trough for wave 1 at negative 0.35 and a crest for wave 2 at positive 0.35, also canceling out to a wave sum of 0 for wave 1 plus 2. What if the two destructively interfering waves have different amplitudes? For example, a wave with a maximum displacement of 1 unit, which is the red wave, could meet a wave with a maximum displacement of negative 2 units, the blue wave. Well, this is still destructive interference since the two interfering waves have opposite displacements. In this case, the resulting displacement of the medium during the complete overlap is negative 1 unit. So as you can see, the destructive nature of the interference does not lead to complete cancellation since the waves have different amplitudes. If I was to change the amplitude of one of these waves, so let's say that for wave 2, I'm actually going to now lower the amplitude from 0.35 to 0.15. What happened to our wave sum? So now we actually do have a resultant wave. Instead of it just being at equilibrium, we have a little bit of a wave. And the reason for that is because now that these two waves don't have the same amplitudes, their effects do not completely cancel out on each other. Let's talk more about that in the next concept. So all the examples from before might lead you to ask this question. How do you find the specific values of the resultant wave or the wave sum? The answer relates to the principle of superposition. The principle of superposition states that when two waves interfere, the resulting displacement of the medium at any location is the sum of the displacements of the individual waves at that same location. Let's look at some examples. First, what kind of interference do we have here? Well, since the displacements are in the same directions at any given time, as you can see over here, this crest is matching with the crest below, and this trough is matching with this trough below, we have an example of constructive interference. Let's go ahead and practice the law of superposition. The amplitudes of both waves at their crests are 1, and so the amplitude of the resulting wave at its crest would be 2. And same with the troughs. The amplitudes of the troughs are negative 1, and so if we add those together, the amplitude of the trough would be negative 2 in our resultant wave. Now let's go ahead and look at the second example here. First, let's identify the type of interference that we have. Since the displacements are in opposite directions at any given time, so over here we have a crest. If we go down below, we have a trough. The bottom one has a crest, where the top one has a trough. We have an example of destructive interference. Next, let's practice the law of superposition. The amplitudes of both waves are 1, but at every given time point, they're in opposite directions. Therefore, the effects of each wave on the medium will cancel out, giving us a resultant wave with an amplitude of 0. For example, as you can see over here, this top wave has an amplitude of 1, when the bottom wave has an amplitude of negative 1, and so when you add those two things together, it would give you an amplitude of 0 in our resultant wave. What if we had two waves with completely different frequencies, wavelengths, and amplitudes? How would we find the wave sum? Well, that's when we use the principle of superposition. I'm going to go ahead and stop this, and let's explore the different values for each wave and see how they add up. So I just went ahead and added a scale so we can look at specific points along each wave. Let's go ahead and start with 0.5 over here. So at 0.5, you can see that y1, or the amplitude of wave 1, is 0.349 meters, and the amplitude of wave 2 is negative 0.132 meters. If we added these two values together according to the law of superposition, that would give us the amplitude of our wave sum, which is true. We see that the amplitude of our wave sum is 0.217 meters. Let's go ahead and move over to the point over here at 1. So we can take a look. Y1, or the amplitude at wave 1, is negative 0.085 meters, and the amplitude at wave 2 is positive 0.005 meters. If we were to add those two values together, we would get negative 0.08 meters, which is what you see for our wave sum below. Let's do one more point. Let's do another value. Let's go to a random point over here. So over here we can see that the amplitude for wave 1 at this point is positive 0.338 meters. The amplitude for wave 2 is negative 0.071 meters. If we were to add those two values together, we would get 0.267 meters, which matches up with our wave sum and our amplitude of our resultant wave over here. So I hope these examples help you better understand the principle of superposition and how we can add the amplitudes of two waves to find the amplitude of our resultant wave. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope you learned something new, and always remember, this is fine and I can do it. I'll see you next video. Bye!